My name is Jessica, and throughout my childhood, I got used to standing on the sidelines, watching others shine while I remained just a faint shadow. In my family, the spotlight was never mine. It always radiated around my sister Rachel, the one everyone called the star of the Moore family. From family gatherings to important holidays, all eyes were always on Rachel. Every time Grandma picked up the phone, her first question was always, "Is Rachel performing anywhere these days?" As for me, no one asked. No one remembered. Maybe I was never interesting enough for them to care. Rachel was born with the artist's spark. Her singing could silence a room. While my voice was always met with an awkward smile and a gentle, "Let Rachel sing, sweetheart," from my mom, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder before she turned away, leaving me alone by the old piano. She started ballet at 4, singing lessons at 6, and by 8 she was enrolled in an expensive summer acting program in New York. I learned to make my own breakfast at 7 and babysat my cousins during the holidays so my parents could focus on taking Rachel to her shows. I was never given a big role, just responsibilities, silence, and a spot in the kitchen corner. I never blamed Rachel. Honestly, I used to admire her so much I tried to imitate everything, how she tied her hair, how she bowed when stepping onto the living room stage. But no one clapped for me. No applause, just a few distracted glances and a half-hearted comment from Dad. "She's probably better suited for accounting." Once, I tucked a poem I wrote under my mom's pillow. A few days later, I saw the paper on a shelf, used as a coaster. No one said anything. Not a word, not a sign that anyone had read it. But I didn't cry. I learned to swallow my sadness, as if I were the family's secret jar, holding all the things they didn't want to remember. Of all the people, only Aunt Carol, my dad's younger sister, truly saw me. She would visit on Saturday afternoons with homemade oatmeal cookies and a warm smile. When she found me hiding in my room reading, she didn't call me out or ask why. She just sat next to me, silently flipping through her book, as if silence itself was a form of connection. "What are you reading, Jess?" she once asked, gently brushing the spine of my book. "About ancient Aztec cities?" I replied, eyes still fixed on the page. She nodded, her eyes sparkling with interest. "You have a rare curiosity. Don't let anyone make you think that's not valuable." I never told anyone, but Aunt Carol's words stayed with me for years. In a world that made me feel like I was never enough, her words were the only compass keeping me from getting lost. I know no one is meant to be in the background forever, but when you grow up in a house where only one person gets to shine, you start to believe that maybe the light was never meant for you. I used to wonder, if I disappeared, would anyone notice? But then I realized I didn't want pity. I just wanted a chance. One moment to be myself, without comparisons, without being pushed aside. I waited 18 years for that moment. And I didn't know when it would come, but I promised myself, when it does, I'll grab it with both hands. I won't let anyone bury me again. I entered my senior year of high school with a quiet fire burning inside me, a determination to prove that I deserved to be seen. While Rachel had left home the year before to attend a prestigious arts academy in Chicago, I poured everything I had into my books, group studies, and countless late nights under the soft yellow glow of my desk lamp. Teachers began to notice me. My essays were read aloud in class, my grades stayed among the highest, and at the end-of-year awards ceremony, my name was called as the top student of the entire grade, beating out hundreds of others. For the first time in my life, I heard applause just for me. I still remember the look in the principal's eyes as she handed me the certificate. Admiration, with not a hint of pity. That evening, I brought the certificate home, my heart racing. I pictured Mom hugging me tightly, Dad smiling with pride, that maybe just once they would truly see my worth. But the moment I stepped through the door, certificate still in hand, Mom spoke first. "Jessica, help me with the dishes. I'm on the phone with Rachel. She's got a performance next week at the City Arts Center." I froze. The certificate trembled slightly in my hand. I swallowed a sigh, then quietly took it to my room. The next morning, I gathered all my courage and sat down at the breakfast table, waiting for Dad to fold his newspaper and look up. I took a deep breath. "I want to study business management," I said, my voice strangely calm. "The state university has a great program, and I qualify. I've done the research. Tuition is about $18,000 a year." Silence fell over the table. Dad blinked at me, and Mom gently set her coffee cup down, her face showing clear surprise. Then suddenly, Dad burst into laughter, a laugh that was half teasing, half disbelief. "You want to be a manager? Rachel performs all over and still struggles to get by." "You think managers make money?" I pressed my lips together, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not doing it for the money. I want to learn, to grow, to live my own life." Then Mom spoke, gently but firmly. "Jessica, we already spent everything on Rachel, you know that. We can't support both of you." "But I'm valedictorian," I nearly shouted. "I did everything right. I didn't go out. Didn't ask for anything. I'm just asking for a chance." Dad slammed the newspaper down, his eyes cold. "This discussion is over. You'll work at Uncle Sam's grocery store after graduation. For now, that's it." I don't remember how I left the table. I just know that when I closed my bedroom door, the tears started falling, and I couldn't stop them. Not because I was rejected, but because I realized they never expected anything from me to begin with. I don't know how long I sat there frozen, until the phone rang. It was Aunt Carol. "Jess, are you okay?" Her voice was soft, but I could hear the concern. I didn't answer right away, but maybe my silence said enough. After a pause, she spoke again, even more gently. "I have some savings. Not much, but enough for your first year. After that, if you work part-time or get scholarships, you can continue." I was speechless. All my emotions broke loose. Aunt Carol didn't make grand promises. She just offered a beginning, a hand reaching out when I was about to fall. "But why would you do that?" I asked, my voice shaking. She smiled softly. "Because no one else in this family sees your worth, and I can't stand by and watch you give up on your dreams just because they're blind." I held the phone as if I were holding my own heart. That day, for the first time in years, I felt like I had a real chance to live a life not defined by someone else's shadow. I made a quiet vow to myself. If anyone still thought I didn't deserve it, I would prove them wrong, and I would start right here, on a path I carved out with my own strength, with the unconditional love of the one person who always saw me, Aunt Carol. I moved in with Aunt Carol just a week after that life-changing conversation. Her house sat in a peaceful Portland suburb with a lavender garden and an old swing creaking gently in the afternoon breeze. Unlike the cold house I used to live in, this place was always filled with sunlight and the scent of cinnamon tea she brewed every morning. She didn't say much, but just one look, one gentle pat on the shoulder was enough to calm my heart. I quickly applied to Oregon State University, majoring in business management. With an outstanding transcript and a heartfelt essay, I was not only accepted but also awarded a partial scholarship. Aunt Carol cried tears of joy when she received the email. "See? I told you. You just needed a chance," she smiled, pulling me into a hug. College years flew by like a whirlwind. I worked part-time at the library, attended seminars, and spent every summer interning at small businesses around the city. I learned how to stand on my own, from managing finances to writing resumes, interviewing, and building a professional network. There were times I was so exhausted I thought I'd collapse, but then I'd remember that night. The night I stood silently at the family dinner table, holding my forgotten valedictorian certificate, and I knew I couldn't stop. 4 years later, I graduated with honors. During the ceremony, as I stood on stage receiving my diploma, I didn't look for my parents in the crowd. I only saw Aunt Carol standing there, her eyes glowing like the June sun. "You did it, Jessica," she whispered as I hugged her tightly. "Now, go live your own life." Shortly after, I was hired as an assistant manager at a high-end restaurant chain called Willow and Ash, known for blending classic American flavors with modern European cuisine. I started in a small role, but I always volunteered for the tough tasks, took detailed notes, learned how to handle staffing, read financial reports, and patiently listened to customers. Within just 2 years, I was promoted to branch manager in downtown Seattle. It was a huge step, not just because of the salary, but because I had finally proven I could run an operation with over 50 employees. The day I signed the new contract, I sent my first message to my mother in years. "I just got promoted to manager at Willow and Ash. I'd love to invite you and Dad to dinner whenever you're free." Not long after, my mom called back. Her voice was still gentle like before, but this time there was hesitation. "Jessica, I heard you're working at a fancy restaurant. Your dad is very proud of you." Despite all the scars in my heart, I smiled. "I just want the family to know I'm doing okay. And if you need any help, I can pitch in a little." I started sending money each month so they could repair the leaking roof, replace the old fridge, and even cover medical bills when Dad had a minor back injury. I didn't do it to be loved. I just didn't want anyone to go without, the way I once did. After that, the atmosphere between us changed. At family gatherings, my mom would go on and on about Jessica, the talented daughter, managing a fancy restaurant, always busy but still thinking of family. The old phrases like, "You're not cut out for academics," or "Rachel is the real talent," were no longer mentioned. Instead, I heard things like, "My daughter works downtown. You have to book a table a week in advance." I can't say I felt nothing. Part of me wanted to ask, what about all those years before, when I stood alone in that cold house and no one even asked if I was okay? But I stayed silent. I didn't need to say it. That silence reminded me just how far I'd come, on my own 2 feet. But just when I thought things had settled, something unexpected happened. Something I never saw coming. And this time, it didn't come from a stranger, but from the one person I thought was always on my side. One quiet Sunday afternoon, I was sitting on the balcony of my apartment, sipping mint tea and reviewing my weekly schedule. My phone buzzed, a Facebook notification. Aunt Carol had just posted a new video. I chuckled softly. Lately, she had gotten into posting little clips, her backyard garden, new recipes she'd tried, or family gatherings I rarely attended due to work. I tapped on the video, expecting something light-hearted. The screen showed a familiar scene, my mother's living room, filled with relatives, warm chandelier lights spilling across the wooden floor. I recognized Uncle Eric's voice, Dad's younger brother sharing an old story, followed by laughter. The mood seemed warm, relaxed. I was about to skip ahead when my mother's voice rang out, loud and clear. "Jessica, that girl is all about appearances." I froze. It felt like someone had gripped my throat. In the video, my mom sat with her legs crossed, wine glass in hand, eyes full of disdain. Whatever manager job she has, who even knows, always posting pictures of food, praising it like she cooked it herself. She's just someone else's employee, nothing to be proud of. My heart dropped. I hit pause. My hands shook. After a moment, I hit play again. This time it was Dad's voice, gruff but clear. "I think Rachel's the one with real talent. After all, she's an artist, has her own identity. Jessica just follows others. She hasn't done anything great." There was laughter from a few relatives, but what hurt me most came right after. The camera panned to Rachel, lounging on the sofa, one hand holding a glass of orange juice, the other brushing back her glossy curls. She said nothing, no defense, no objection, not even a hint of discomfort. I felt like I'd been pushed off a cliff, falling straight into the darkness of betrayal. The very people I thought had begun to value me, the ones I'd quietly supported financially for the past 3 years, were now sitting together, mocking me, for fun. I scrolled down to the comments. The first was from my mother. "Carol, delete this video now. No one gave you permission to post it. The second was from my father. Take this down. You're embarrassing the family. But it was Aunt Carol's reply that made me break down in tears. I don't know how to delete videos, and even if I did, I wouldn't. Jessica has done everything for this family, and all of you belittle and trample on her kindness. You should be ashamed. I set my phone down, sitting in silence as a gentle breeze passed over the roof. Inside me, a storm raged, a mix of heartbreak, disappointment, and a powerful awakening. That night, I called Aunt Carol. The moment I heard her say hello, I burst into tears. I saw the video, I choked out. I didn't think they were still like that. She sighed on the other end. Jessica, they've always been like that. You just didn't see it because you've always tried so hard to be accepted. But some people, no matter what you do, will never be satisfied. I thought they had changed, I whispered. No, they were just using your success. And the moment they can't benefit anymore, they turn their backs. I stayed quiet for a long time. Then finally I spoke, with a firmness I had never used when talking about my parents. Auntie, I'm cutting ties. I can't keep living in this illusion. They have the right to say whatever they want, but I have the right not to let them into my life anymore. On the other end, she didn't say much, just a quiet whisper. I'm always here, Jessica, no matter what you decide. I hung up, then replayed the video. Not to hurt myself again, but to remind myself of one thing, how far I had come, and why I could never go back to a place where I was treated like I didn't matter. I was no longer the girl standing by the wall silently watching her sister be praised. I was Jessica Moore, the one who wrote her own story. And starting today, I would live a life with no space for words that made me doubt myself. I woke up the next morning with a strange emptiness, like my heart had been cut out without a trace of blood. The Portland sky was gray, clouds drifting quietly past the window. I sat on my bed for a long time, staring at my phone. Dozens of missed calls and messages from my mom, my dad, Uncle Eric, and a few other relatives filling the screen. Not a single message from Rachel. I tapped the message icon and typed just one short line. I saw the video. I know what you think of me. From today on, I won't be sending money or keeping in contact. I hope you both live in peace. I hit send, my hand trembling slightly, but there was no hesitation in my heart. Just 5 minutes later, the first reply came in. It was from my mom. Jessica, don't overreact. We were just joking. Are you really going to hold a grudge over something so small? Next came a message from my dad. Do you have any idea how much we've sacrificed for you? And now that you're successful, you turn your back on your family? I stared at the screen for a long time, then turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I chose silence as my shield. That afternoon, I stopped by Aunt Carol's house. She was watering the yellow chrysanthemums on the porch when she saw me walk through the gate. I already know, she said softly before I could say a word. You did the right thing. I couldn't hold back. I hugged her like a child, letting the tears fall onto her frail but steady shoulder. I'm so tired, Auntie, I sobbed. I've done everything I could, and it's still not enough. She gently rubbed my back. It's not that you're not enough, Jessica. It's that they don't have enough heart to see that you are. The following week, I didn't visit home. I didn't answer any calls from family. I spent time with myself, working, reading, jogging in the mornings, and cooking with Aunt Carol on the weekends. A few relatives, like my cousin Amanda and Aunt Julie, quietly sent me messages. I saw the video. I'm really sorry, Jessica. You deserved better. Don't think we're all like them. I've always been proud of you. Those words lit a small, comforting fire inside me. I realized that family doesn't have to be those who share your blood. Family is where someone listens, protects, and respects you, even in silence. As for Rachel, she remained silent as always. We still crossed paths at the office since she was now working as an administrative assistant for one of Willow and Ash's partners. Our encounters were brief and formal. No accusations, no apologies. Just nods and small talk, as if nothing had happened. One afternoon after a meeting, Rachel approached me in the hallway. She hesitated before finally saying, "I didn't speak up for you that day, not because I agreed with them. I just didn't know what to do." I looked at her, and for the first time I saw Rachel's eyes without the old sparkle of confidence, only a vague sense of regret. "I didn't need you to defend me," I replied calmly. "I just hoped, once, you'd have the courage to stand up for the truth." Rachel nodded, giving a faint, sad smile. "I guess I'm still not that brave." I didn't blame her. Everyone has their limits, but I had already pushed past mine. I no longer wanted to live halfway, in the shadows of fake gratitude. The following month, I was invited to speak at a women's business leadership panel, representing Willow and Ash. In the grand auditorium, the lights beamed down on my face as I stepped onto the stage. I shared my journey, not to complain, but to emphasize that success doesn't always grow from a place of love. Sometimes it takes root in the dry soil of loneliness and pain. After the panel, people came up to shake my hand, ask for advice. I truly felt that I had stepped out of the shadow of my past, no longer that Moore girl named Jessica, but Jessica Moore, an independent, strong woman who knew her worth. But I didn't yet know that behind Rachel's silence and my mother's belated apologies lay another secret, one that would once again test the trust and resilience I thought I had fully forged. On an ordinary Monday morning, I walked into the office with my usual black coffee, laptop tucked under my arm, already mentally organizing my packed weekly schedule. But something felt different in the air that day. The admin smiled at me with an extra sparkle in her eyes, and Brian, the VP who rarely left his office, came knocking on my door himself. "Jessica, Mr. Randall wants to see you in the main conference room," he said, unable to hide his excitement. "Right now." My heart pounded in my chest. Mr. Randall Lawson, the founder and current CEO of Willow and Ash, and my longtime role model in the culinary management industry, rarely called anyone in unless it was serious. I straightened my blazer, took a deep breath, and stepped into the glass-walled room overlooking downtown Seattle. Mr. Randall stood by the window, his back turned. When he heard my footsteps, he turned around with his familiar, calm smile. "Jessica," he said warmly, "I've been following your journey these past 5 years. From an intern taking notes in meetings to becoming the best manager this company has ever had." I stood still, not daring to interrupt. He rested his hand on a chair, his expression serious. "I'll be retiring next spring. And I want you to take over as CEO." Time froze. "Sir, I really," I stammered. "I don't think I'm ready for something like that." Mr. Randall smiled. "No one ever thinks they're ready for something big, Jessica. But you don't need to prove anything to me anymore. You've proven it through every number, every decision, every crisis you've handled. The staff trusts you, our partners respect you, and so do I." I don't remember when I nodded, but when I walked out of that meeting, I felt like I was floating in a dream. A beautiful dream I never dared imagine. That one day, the girl who had always been pushed aside would become the leader of a top-tier restaurant chain. That night, I called Aunt Carol. When I told her the news, she gasped, "Oh my goodness, Jessica, you did it." I broke down in tears, not from pressure or fear, but from relief. I no longer needed validation from my parents, no longer craved forced praise from my old family. All I needed was Aunt Carol's firm handshake, Mr. Randall's trusting eyes, and the years I had poured into a dream only I truly understood. This success wasn't luck. It was proof that I had chosen the right path. A few days later, I received a handwritten letter, rare in the age of emails and texts. It was from Rachel. "Jessica, I don't know where to begin. I've been silent for too long, and that's hurt you more than anything I could have said. I just read the article about your appointment as CEO. I'm happy for you. You deserve it more than anyone. I know there's a lot of hurt between us. But if someday you ever want to talk, I'm here. Not to explain, just to listen. Rachel. I folded the letter, a soft sadness washing over me. Maybe Rachel wasn't a bad person. Maybe she had just grown up in a world that made her forget fairness should be protected too. I've responded to her letter, not out of anger, but because I'm still learning how to forgive the right way, not to mend a broken family, but to free myself from unnecessary weight. A few weeks later, I officially took my seat in the CEO's office. From the 23rd floor window, I looked out over the glowing city, quietly grateful for everything that had happened, even the hurt, because those very wounds taught me how to rise, how to choose, and how never to let others define my worth. I am Jessica Moore, no longer a shadow, no longer someone on the sidelines, but a woman who writes her own story, with her own hands, strength, and the unconditional love she received from the one person who truly believed in her when the world turned away. Aunt Carol. Looking back, I understand now that not everyone will see your true value, and that's okay. I used to crave validation from the people closest to me, but I've learned that the most meaningful recognition comes from within, and from those who love you genuinely. I was once someone else's shadow, but now I walk in my own light. Success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about knowing you're worthy of everything you've earned. What do you think about Jessica's journey? Have you ever experienced feelings like hers? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt and inspiring stories about family life. The auditorium of the University of California echoed with loud applause. Every seat was filled with families holding vibrant bouquets, balloons bouncing against the ceiling, shimmering as if reminding everyone that today was their special day. Except for me and 3 empty seats in the 5th row. A small sign with "Family of Luna Davis" stood right in front, painfully out of place. Around me, every cheer, every tearful hug between friends and their loved ones made my throat tighten. 6 years. 6 years of working and studying, all for a day like this, and yet, a soft vibration in my gown pocket signaled exactly what I expected. Mom? Sorry, sweetie. I know how much you wanted this, but Uncle Eric just can't miss his Super Bowl party. It's been 15 years now. We'll celebrate with you next weekend. Love you, baby. The screen dimmed as I let it fall back into my lap. My fingers were ice cold, trembling not from the auditorium's air conditioning, but from a disappointment I had tried to ignore for far too long. I had sold my old car to pay for my final semester's tuition, skipped every party, every family gathering, buried in textbooks after late shifts at the cafe. I thought, at the very least, today they'd be here. But no, football was once again more important than me. I took a deep breath, forcing a smile as the announcer called out, "Luna Marie Davis." Applause echoed, as if on cue. I stood up, legs heavy like they were made of lead, walking slowly toward the stage. The only pair of black shoes I owned, bought from a secondhand store downtown, clacked against the hardwood floor. Loud, lonely steps. My graduation gown draped over my back, heavier than the thousands of hours spent studying, heavier than every night I went to bed hungry to save money for books. The Bachelor of Business Administration degree, the symbol I once believed would change my life, was handed to me by the dean with a warm smile. But no matter how kindly she smiled, my eyes kept drifting back to those 3 empty chairs. I clutched the diploma tighter, my chest twisting with each breath. Inside my head, my mother's old words scratched like an open wound. "You're the one who wanted that degree, not us. So it's your responsibility." Every time the family threw a party downstairs, they told me, "Luna, go to your room. Don't let anyone bother you. You need to focus on your studies, remember. This was your choice." There was never space for pride in me, only duty, only expectations I had to carry alone. Another buzz vibrated in my pocket, this time from Dad. "There will be a next time, sweetie, I promise. Go for your master's degree and we'll all be there for that one." I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Next time? Did they really think I'd pour another 6 years of my life just to watch them repeat this cycle of neglect? Just like when they blamed car trouble for missing my community college graduation 3 years ago, then gleefully posted party pictures on Facebook. That day, my mom proudly showed off her favorite salad on the Super Bowl table. Dad beamed in his worn-out number 23 jersey, cheering for his team without a care in the world. I had told myself not to resent them. But today, standing on this stage, clutching a diploma soaked in sweat and sacrifice, I finally saw it clearly. My family never truly cared. I wasn't their pride. I was their convenient fixer, the one they'd turn to for rent money, the one who'd help out when they overspent by month's end. All around me, joyful cheers filled the hall as the ceremony continued. But for me, those sounds rang hollow. I had graduated, alone, and this time, I wouldn't pretend it didn't matter. I sat quietly on the stone bench outside the auditorium, clutching my bachelor's degree in its stiff leather case. Something I once believed would be a source of pride for my entire family. But now, it was nothing more than something I purchased, with years of lonely sacrifice. The breeze from the San Diego harbor cut through the air, colder than the silence from my mother and father. Memories flooded my mind, drowning out the fading noise of the ceremony behind me. 3 years ago, they also missed my community college graduation. They claimed the car broke down on the way. Yet just hours later, I saw Uncle Jacob's Facebook post. My whole family gathered by the lake, grilling BBQ, laughing under that same red and white canopy. Mom wore her Queen of the Grill apron. Dad raised his Bud Light proudly, and my brother, Evan, cheered on the Dodgers like nothing else in the world mattered. Not one of them remembered me, though a week before, Mom had promised. This time, I won't miss it, sweetheart. So proud of you. Apparently, that promise was worth no more than a plate of barbecue. Since I was 19, I understood my place. In their eyes, I wasn't the child who deserved attention. I was the backup plan, the one they didn't have to worry about because she'll figure it out. Evan once maxed out my credit card to put a down payment on a sports car, claiming it was an investment in his future as a real estate agent. 6 months later, the car was repossessed under a mountain of unpaid debt. The loan was in my name. Their response? Family has to support each other, right? If you don't help, who will? And I did help. I was always the one who helped. I skipped spring breaks with friends to take overnight shifts at the hospital, scrubbing floors for small paychecks. I canceled my health insurance to save for tuition. Even when I collapsed from exhaustion in my sophomore year, I kept it to myself because I knew what they'd say. Luna, don't make a fuss. The family's struggling enough already. Struggling? Sure. If struggling meant Dad still had money for weekly bowling leagues, Mom kept ordering Italian porcelain dinnerware for her perfect parties, and Evan posted Vegas trips every year. Meanwhile, I lived on vending machine sandwiches in the basement of the university library. I never said no to them, not because I was a pushover, but because I believed that if I tried hard enough, they'd see my worth, that they'd be proud when they saw me walk across that stage. But today's reality hit me like a slap in the face. To them, I was just a convenient resource, someone to patch holes in their finances whenever they overreached. Another message popped up. Evan, as predictable as ever. Luna, could you send me $2,000? Uncle Eric's reselling his NFL season tickets at a great price. Once-in-a-lifetime deal. Think of it as you pitching in for some family fun. I let the phone fall onto the bench, clenching my fists until my nails dug into my palms. Family fun? How many times had their fun been funded by my sacrifices? That question haunted me since the day Evan used my credit to secure a future investment condo, only to turn it into a party den. The day I found out every utility bill was under my name, I finally understood what family responsibility meant in their dictionary. I remembered the midnight call from Mom, voice quivering with practiced guilt. Sweetheart, Dad's in a tight spot with a small loan. We just need you to co-sign. It's just paperwork. Family doesn't fuss over these things. I signed, and spent 2 years digging myself out of that small debt. Every time I reached for success, they dragged me back down. But today, holding that degree, hearing the crowd's cheers meant for someone else, I realized something had to change. No more empty promises. No more late-night calls starting with the same rehearsed line. Don't be mad, honey, but we really need your help this time. This time, I was the one who needed to help myself. In the distance, the sound of waves hitting the San Diego pier echoed in a steady rhythm, as if softly asking, "What are you waiting for, Luna?" I stood up, smoothed my gown, the heavy diploma in my hand now more than just an academic achievement. It was a reminder that I had lived for them long enough. The afternoon sunlight stretched across the path leading to the parking lot. I walked away without looking back. The moment I returned to my small apartment in Chula Vista, my phone started buzzing non-stop. I didn't need to check who it was. My family never let me have peace for more than a day after they forgot me. And right on cue, the screen lit up. Mom. As soon as I unlocked it, the message hit me like a slap. "Luna, sweetie, we know today's a big day for you. We're all so proud. By the way, I'm trying to gather some money to fix the roof. I just need you to help me with $2,500. I'll pay you back as soon as Dad gets the summer insurance payout." I let out a bitter laugh. Insurance money? The last time they used that excuse, it conveniently vanished along with the new curved TV Evan accidentally flaunted on Instagram. The phone kept buzzing. "Luna, my sweet little sister, save me here. Lost my wallet this morning, stuck on gas money. You've always been the one who helps the family. Just $500, I'll owe you a pizza night. Evan." I slumped into the worn-out chair in my cheap rental apartment, my heart colder than stone. 6 years of studying, working myself to the bone, scraping every penny to survive, and yet in their eyes, I was still just a walking wallet that said yes. The phone rang again. "Dad. Sweetheart, I just need you to co-sign a small loan. It's for end-of-year shopping, a really good deal. No risk at all, just paperwork to make it look good on the application." I sighed, feeling like I was listening to a scratched record stuck on repeat. I opened Instagram. The first thing that popped up was a photo Evan posted exactly 2 hours ago. He was beaming, holding VIP tickets to a Chargers game at the stadium, with the caption, "Gotta treat yourself sometimes." Those tickets had a starting price of over $1,200. This from the same brother who once borrowed $3,000 from me, claiming it was an emergency because the power had been cut off at home. Below that post was Mom's comment, "Live it up, my boy. Mom will handle the rest." My whole body flushed with heat. The same people who had just begged me for money were now cheering Evan's spending spree, as if nothing had happened. Quietly, I opened my banking app. My savings account had dropped by $1,500 just in the past week. It was a withdrawal from a sub-account I had set up to help Mom save for emergencies. I had been foolish enough to give her access, but the real shock came when I checked my credit report. A bright red alert flashed on the screen. 3 new credit cards opened under the name Luna Marie Davis in the past 30 days. I stood frozen. Chase, American Express, a Macy's card. All of them listed my parents' old address in El Cajon as the billing address. I had never applied for those cards, but someone had. Someone very familiar with my information. My heart pounded as I scrolled through the report. The spending transactions were crystal clear. $325 at Electronics Hub on the 10th of last month. $1,800 at Mike's Furniture that same day. $450 at Liquor Haven just 3 days later. I felt like I was suffocating in a thick, heavy swamp of betrayal. This wasn't about helping family during tough times anymore. This was theft. Brazen, unapologetic theft. And this time, they had left me no more excuses to protect them. I opened the last message from Mom. "Luna, You know Mom never wants to bother you. But our family always needs each other. You should forget that. I closed my eyes, a bitter ache rising in my chest. Family. That word once held something sacred for me. But to them, it was nothing more than a pretty excuse to drain my trust and my money. No real congratulations. No presents in the most important moments of my life. Only excuses. Only demands. I clenched my phone tightly, the words spilling from my lips like a vow. This time, I won't be the one giving in. I opened my contacts, scrolling to the name I had hesitated to call for months. Amelia Blake, Financial Protection Attorney. I hit dial. Before the third ring, a calm, steady voice answered. Miss Davis? I take it you're ready now. The next morning, as sunlight filtered through the tiny window of my Chula Vista apartment, I knew I wouldn't be there much longer. Sitting on the edge of my bed, I opened my travel app. Without hesitation, I booked a one-way flight to Sedona, Arizona. Not the flashy New York or Los Angeles my friends flaunted, but a quiet town where the crimson cliffs would separate me from the endless calls of demands. I had always dreamed of Sedona as a temporary escape, but back then I thought I wasn't worthy of rest. Now I understand. Rest is not a reward. It's the right to protect myself. The booking confirmation took 3 seconds, but the feeling of relief lasted much longer. I had just put an end to the cycle of being used. My phone chimed with a message from Megan, my former cafe coworker, the only person who truly knew how my family treated me. Luna, my hands are shaking just reading this, but I guess it's finally your time, huh? You know where to find me if you need anything. I smiled. My life wasn't lacking family. They just didn't share my blood. That same afternoon, Amelia called. Her voice was firm, but never cold. I've reviewed your credit report. This is no longer a matter of helping family, Luna. This is criminal. And if you're ready, we'll begin tomorrow. I realized then, what had held me back all this time wasn't fear of them. It was fear of becoming the cruel one. But now I understood. No one has the right to drain me dry in the name of family. The flight was set for 10 in the morning on Saturday. I packed only what was truly mine: a small suitcase, a few sets of clothes, my laptop, and the hard-earned bachelor's degree I fought for alone. Before walking out the door, a video call from Mom came through. No surprise. This time, I declined. She left a voicemail. Luna, I know you're upset, but you can't turn your back on family over a little misunderstanding. You've always been the kind one, remember? Kindness does not mean submission. I walked down the stairs, each step shaking off the invisible weight that had clung to me for years. The plane touched down in Sedona on a blazing noon. The air here felt different. Not the suffocating heaviness of debts and pleading calls, but the calm of a place where no one knew my name. I rented a small cabin on the mountainside. The owner, Mrs. Carroll, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sparkling eyes, looked at me with a gaze that had seen many others come here to find themselves. Sweetheart, Sedona won't promise to help you forget. But this place will teach you how to stop letting others choose your happiness for you. Simple words, yet they nearly brought me to tears. That afternoon, I sat on the cabin's porch, holding a warm cup of tea, my phone laid out before me. Amelia had sent a detailed legal plan: credit dispute filings, asset protection measures, and, most importantly, a restraining order preventing my family from contacting me. Next to it was a list of financial advisors specializing in recovery from family abuse. I read every line, feeling like I was learning how to protect myself for the first time. Another message from Megan popped up. You're the strongest person I know, but strong doesn't mean you have to endure alone. I'm always here, remember that? Sedona's sunset painted the red rocks with a golden hue. I took a deep breath, opened my phone, and snapped a photo of the view, captioning it, starting over with myself. It was strange. For the first time, I posted something without fearing a family member would come to criticize or mock me. That evening, I received an email from Rebecca Tran, a community financial advisor in Sedona recommended by Amelia. Hello, Luna. I've reviewed your case. Believe it or not, your situation is far from rare. We'll tackle this together. No rush, but we must be firm. Sitting there, alone in that quiet space, I had never felt so steady. This time, I would be the one to rewrite my story, and there would be no room left for exploitation disguised as family. 3 days after arriving in Sedona, I sat in Amelia Blake's temporary office, my hand resting on a thick stack of documents, evidence of every loan, every theft, every betrayal disguised as family obligation. Amelia's voice was calm, unwavering, without a hint of judgment. Luna, we'll start by freezing all credit accounts in your name. I've prepared files for the consumer protection agencies. Most importantly, you need to understand, from this moment on, they no longer have the right to touch your life without your consent. I nodded. For the first time, that familiar fear didn't crush my chest. Instead, there was clarity. A new, solid feeling. That day, we filed the official lawsuit with the San Diego court. Family financial abuse, credit fraud, and personal asset misappropriation, accompanied by a cease and desist order, preventing my parents and Evan from contacting me. I sent the final letter. This time, it wasn't heavy with guilt, but sharp with resolve. I have given you far too many chances. From this moment forward, any contact without my consent will be addressed through legal action. Respect is the only condition to be called family. Pressing send, I exhaled slowly. It felt like closing the heaviest door of my life. Soon after, my story began to spread. Starting from a small post on a financial forum Rebecca had introduced me to, I shared my 6-year journey of studying, working, blind sacrifice for an ungrateful family, and my decision to finally stand up for myself. I didn't expect that post to resonate with thousands of others. Comments flooded in. Your story hits painfully close to home. Thank you for speaking out. I thought it was just me being used like this. Live well, Luna. Don't let anyone else control your life. Every word felt like scissors cutting through the chains of manipulation that had bound me for years. 3 days later, my inbox pinged with an email from Celeste Morgan, HR Director of Avalon Consulting, a financial advisory firm based in Portland. Hello, Luna. I read your story from the post that went viral last week. Avalon is always seeking individuals with real-world experience and resilience like yours to lead our financial protection programs for young women. We would like to invite you for an interview for the Community Program Manager position. All travel expenses will be covered by Avalon. I had to read that email 3 times before I believed it was real. Avalon Consulting, a company I admired from afar during college, where ethical values mattered more than cold numbers. The interview was held via Zoom 2 days later. Unlike previous interviews, this time I didn't try to be the perfect version others expected. I spoke about what I had endured, rebuilding my finances from below zero, and my desire to help others who had been reduced to living wallets like me. Celeste smiled through the screen. Luna, you don't just have knowledge. You have a story people need to hear. Avalon needs people like you. 1 week later, I received the official job offer. A starting salary of $95,000 per year, double what I had ever dreamed. 6 months of housing support, comprehensive benefits, and, above all, a work environment that respected my worth as a person. That evening, holding the offer letter, I sat alone on the cabin steps in Sedona, watching the mountain's shadow stretch under the moonlight. Beside me, Megan, who had flown in just to celebrate with me. You know what, Luna? I've never seen you smile with your eyes like tonight. They didn't answer, just looked up at the vast sky. That feeling of lightness, of true freedom. I never knew I craved it so much. When I moved to Portland, I carried with me a small suitcase and a big belief. I was no longer anyone's puppet. Walking into Avalon's office for the first time, I didn't see judgmental stares, only welcoming smiles, genuine questions wanting to know about me. About Luna Davis, not the obedient daughter my family once imposed. Cascadia Financial Center, Portland. I stood backstage, the microphone clipped to my blazer lapel, the stage lights burning hot against my back. Today was a seminar on financial independence for the younger generation, and I was the keynote speaker. Just 3 months ago, I was still the girl, trembling as she signed a lawsuit against her own family. Now, in front of me were over 500 business leaders, investors, and community organizations. I was about to share my story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. Miss Davis, are you ready? Celeste, the boss I respected the most, placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze. I smiled. Never been more ready. But fate, as always, had its way of testing me. A sudden commotion erupted from the lobby. The event manager rushed in, pale-faced. Luna, 3 people just barged in claiming to be your family. They're causing a scene, demanding to see you immediately. I knew exactly who it was. Dad, Mom, and Evan. They had found me. No time to avoid it. I stepped onto the stage as the MC announced my name. The spotlight hit my eyes, but I could still see their familiar silhouettes pushing through the audience, ignoring security. My father started, his voice booming, deliberately drowning out my microphone. Everyone here is being lied to. This is my daughter, Luna Davis. She's making up stories to smear her own family. The entire auditorium buzzed with whispers. Mom followed, tears streaming dramatically. We sacrificed everything for her, and now she turns her back on us, spreading lies about her own parents. Evan, holding up his phone to record, sneered. People deserve to know the truth. She's nothing but an ungrateful traitor, selling out her family for money and fame. The tension in the room was suffocating. Took a deep breath. The rage that once paralyzed me was still there. But today, I was different. If you want the audience to know the truth, I said calmly, then let's lay everything out right here, right now. I turned toward the large screen behind me. With a single tap, the evidence prepared by Avalon's legal team appeared. Bank statements with unauthorized transactions under my name, credit card bills opened by my parents using my identity, emails and texts from Evan begging for money, followed by photos of his Vegas trips paid with that very money. A recorded confession from my mother. Luna, you have money. Of course you should help the family. The room fell silent. Only the harsh, ragged breathing of the 3 people at the back remained. Exposed and raw. I stayed silent, I said, eyes locked on them, thinking silence would protect the family. But in truth, silence only protects abusers. Today I choose to speak. Not for revenge, but to end the manipulation. A few scattered claps echoed, growing louder until the entire auditorium erupted in applause. The security moved in, this time without hesitation. Mr. and Mrs. Summers. Evan Summers, you are trespassing and disrupting the event. Please leave immediately. But it didn't stop there. From backstage, 2 police officers stepped forward. The female officer read the arrest warrant in an icy tone. Robert Summers, Evan Summers, you are under arrest for financial fraud, credit abuse, and identity theft. Patricia Summers, you are under investigation as an accomplice. The sharp click of handcuffs echoed like a gavel. The auditorium held its breath, then burst into another round of applause as my family was escorted out. I stood still on stage, feeling as if a crushing weight had finally lifted from my chest. That day, my talk became the most honest speech of the event. I spoke about how family financial abuse creeps in, silently, persistently, and why saying no is sometimes the bravest thing one can do. When I finished, the entire hall rose to their feet. The applause wasn't out of pity. It was recognition. Later that evening, I received an email from Elaine Foster, senior editor at Highland Press. "Luna, your story is exactly what society needs to hear. If you're ready, we'd love to publish it as a book." 3 months after the scandal at the Cascadia conference, I stood in front of a different room. This time, not to defend myself, but to launch something I had once wished for when I felt lost. At the podium of the Phoenix Scholarship launch event, I looked down at the front row. They weren't blood family, but the way they looked at me was nothing short of genuine. Celeste sat beside Rebecca Tran, the advisor who helped me stand back up. Megan waved from a distance, her eyes gleaming with pride. Behind them were others who had been exploited by their families, now standing as my friends, my colleagues. Phoenix Scholarship was created to support young people who've suffered financial abuse from their own families. "Just like I once did," I said, my voice steady. "We don't just offer scholarships. We offer a chance to be heard, to be protected, and to be independent." The ceremony ended with handshakes and promises, but when the stage lights dimmed, what touched me most was a young woman hesitantly stepping toward me. "I'm Sophie. Your story made me realize I'm not alone." They also opened credit cards under my name. I was going to ignore it, but today, I'll do differently. I took her hand, feeling like I was looking at myself from 5 years ago. Founding Phoenix was only the beginning. News of my lawsuit and the Cascadia conference had sparked a wider conversation about family financial abuse. Invitations to panels and conferences poured in. But I knew I had to choose spaces that created real value, not just those wanting to capitalize on someone's trauma. And then, the invitation from TEDx Portland appeared in my inbox. "Luna Davis, we would like to hear your story about reclaiming financial and personal autonomy from your own family." I didn't reply immediately. Speaking the truth in front of thousands had once felt impossible, but this time, I wasn't afraid. I knew I had to do it. For Sophie, for the hundreds like her, and for myself. On the day of the TEDx talk, I wore a simple navy suit. Not to prove success, but because it was the color of my resolve, of who I had become. "I am Luna Davis. I used to believe that sacrifice was how you preserved family. But at some point, unconditional sacrifice turns into self-destruction. I've learned to say no to manipulation and yes to myself." My story wasn't just about debt or cosign loans. It was about awakening, about daring to cut toxic ties to rediscover my own worth. As the lights illuminated the room, I saw more than a few teary eyes, and when I finished, the entire auditorium rose in a standing ovation. The applause echoed long after I left the stage. That day, I didn't just tell a story. I gave permission to everyone trapped by the wrong kind of family to choose themselves. The Phoenix Scholarship grew faster than I had imagined. Within just 6 months, we had helped over 20 individuals clear fraudulent debts, pursue legal action, and most importantly, receive free financial counseling. But to me, the most meaningful milestone wasn't in the reports. It was the very first Phoenix family dinner. Not a fancy party. Just a warm room, a long table where people shared their stories. A space where no one was mocked for saying no to lending money, where no one was blamed for daring to live for themselves. Megan cooked lasagna herself. Celeste brought wine. Rebecca told jokes so bad that everyone laughed because they were truly awful. And me, for the first time, I felt like I belonged. That was family. The family I chose. That night, Sophie, the shy girl from before, stood up to share her good news. "I've successfully frozen my credit, and next week I'm starting my first internship." The applause that followed wasn't out of pity. It was out of pride. The soft morning sunlight of Portland streamed through the window of my new office. On the wall, 2 photos hung side by side. Both captured a graduation moment. yet they belonged to two entirely different worlds. The one on the left was from 6 years ago. Me, in a worn-out black gown, holding my bachelor's degree, while 3 empty chairs behind me served as a harsh reminder that, to my family, a Super Bowl game mattered more than celebrating my hard-earned achievement. The photo on the right was from this past spring. Still me, but now in the navy blue gown of a prestigious MBA program. This time, the seats behind me weren't empty. Megan waving a mini flag, Rebecca holding up a sign that read Luna Rocks, and Celeste standing in the middle with a vibrant bouquet. The family I had chosen for myself. I stepped closer, gently touching the photo frame. That day, I lost what people call a biological family. But in return, I found those who truly saw my worth, not out of obligation, but out of genuine respect. The screen pulsed softly. "Hi, Luna. I'm Naomi, a senior student. I just received the Phoenix Scholarship. Could you give me some advice on starting my own journey to independence?" I smiled. That question used to be mine, sitting alone in a tiny rented room in Chula Vista, not knowing where to begin, with no one to ask. Now, I was the person Naomi turned to. Life has a strange way of coming full circle. That weekend, the workshop I organized, Financial Empowerment for Survivors of Family Abuse, was fully booked within just 3 days. Unlike flashy conferences, this was a safe space where people could share their scars without fear of judgment. A young woman named Emily, with tired eyes but a fierce gaze, stood up to speak. "I used to think I was a bad daughter for saying no to my mother, but hearing your story, I realized that sometimes protecting yourself is the highest form of filial piety." The applause wasn't loud out of politeness. It was sincere, filled with solidarity. After the session, as everyone left, I stayed behind to clean up. Rebecca approached, placing a hand on my shoulder. "The little Luna from back then has come a long way." I glanced at her and smiled. "But she's still here. She's just learned not to bow her head anymore." That evening, back at my small apartment in the Pearl District, the sunset bathed the windows in soft pink. On my desk was the reprint contract for my first book, Stepping Out of the Family's Shadow, now going into its 3rd edition. Beside it, the manuscript for my next book, dedicated to those struggling to differentiate love from exploitation. I no longer felt bitterness when thinking about Dad, Mom, or Evan. The legal battles had been settled. The community they once used to attack me had become the very space where their wrongdoings were exposed. Justice had done its part. As for me, I chose to move forward. That night, during a quiet dinner with the people I now called family, Celeste raised her glass. To those brave enough to choose themselves again. I clinked my glass, my eyes calm, not because I had forgotten the pain, but because I had turned it into something stronger. Later, standing on my balcony, gazing at the city's shimmering lights, I realized sometimes losing your old family is the price you pay to find your real one. A family not defined by blood, but by choice and respect. A calendar alert appeared, reminding me of my upcoming guest lecture at the University of Oregon, Rebuilding After Family Financial Ruin. I closed my eyes, inhaling Portland's crisp evening air. My journey wasn't over. Every story I told, every person I helped was my way of honoring the girl I used to be, the one sitting between 3 empty chairs, believing she wasn't worthy of love. No, I know. No one else gets to define my worth. That night, I added a line to my journal. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is let go of those who never truly held your hand. The city lights twinkled as if whispering back in reassurance, in celebration. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely free. Luna's story is a powerful reminder that family doesn't always equal unconditional love. Courageously breaking free from the cycle of exploitation, she transformed her pain into strength, rebuilt her self-worth, and now helps those who once felt like her. In today's world, setting boundaries with toxic relationships isn't selfish. It's a fundamental right to protect oneself. Sometimes, losing your old family is the price you pay to find your real one. What do you think about Luna's journey? Have you ever experienced similar family pressures? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow the channel for more meaningful stories about life and family.